Hi guys, so as well as playing D&D, I obviously like to watch all kinds of D&D. And something that's recently come out is the animated series of the Legend of VOX MACHINA. And this is one of the characters from that. This is Grog, and he's a Goliath barbarian fighter. And I think it looks pretty cool. And obviously something he likes doing is drinking. And that's why I've made his figure in this pose. So I made this with some 3D printed parts and lots of green stuff. So to start off with, I went looking on Thingiverse for some sort of figure, body, mannequin kind of thing that I could then obviously cut up and sort of change into what I wanted. And I found this one, which is pretty cool. Nice and muscly, which is good because obviously Grog is quite a muscly guy. So I downloaded the files for this one. Then I went over to Twin Goddess Miniatures at my mini factory, as I'd used some tables and chairs and bits and pieces from this chap before. So yeah, awesome. Downloaded them files. Link in the description, guys, to where you can get hold of all of these. Then I took all those saved files, opened up in the Anycubic software that I have, and this is the reason why I love the Anycubic Photon Mono. The plate on it is just so large, I can print off so many pieces in one go, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I managed to get all the pieces on there, which is excellent. Put them on a USB, plugged them into the side of the printer, pushed a couple of buttons, and then just had to wait. So several hours later, and the printing's all complete, and then we can see how they turn out. So I've been using this printer for the last 6 months, and I have to say I absolutely love it. And there you can see they've all come out pretty good. Obviously they are still kind of coated in a bit of resin, so they do need to go into a little wash station next. So obviously slice them off. They always generally come off really well. They obviously all got supports on, and yeah, no failures whatsoever, and everything's come out tickety boo. So awesome. So yeah, the great thing is obviously I've got the wash and cure sort of system here from Anycubic as well. This just makes things a whole lot easier because I can put all the things in there, push a button, and then again I can go off and do other things, and then come back a little bit later, and yeah, all nice and clean. Once they have been thoroughly washed, the next stage is to remove all the supports, and the best way to do this is obviously to put them in some nice warm, or I generally have it quite hot, the water actually, and yeah, as you can see, very little force is needed to pull the supports off. Because they are obviously warmed up, they do come away rather nicely. And then just a case of repeating this step for all the little parts and pieces that I've got before taking them back to the wash and cure station. And this time I load them up on the revolving plate there, and this basically will harden all the plastic. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, it hardens the plastic. So again, just a couple more buttons to push. And yeah, I can just walk away and go and do other bits and pieces, which is great stuff. So I would highly recommend a 3D printer to anyone who can afford them, just because it really is like having your own toy shop in your house. And yeah, being able to print out whatever you want, and more importantly what I feel, being able to print things out to the size you need. So yeah, as I say, these Anycubic sort of system that I use, absolutely love it. And yeah, I am printing pretty much something every day, even if it's only a small little part, or sometimes obviously larger parts. And there we go, that's everything nice and clean. And next stage would normally be I'd paint them, but obviously in this case I'm going to do a bit of assembly. Obviously I've got a rough idea of how I want this to be, obviously with the beer barrel, the seats, and I want it basically so he's sort of sitting in it but leaning back, as though obviously any moment now it's going to topple back. So yeah, I've got all these obviously body parts, and it is just a case of working out how they're going to fit, how they're going to assemble together. And yeah, basically what I want to do next. But the first thing I will do is I'm going to chop the arms and the legs up a little bit, just so I can sort of rearrange the pose, which is easy enough to do. Get me a little Dremel tool, and basically I've got a little mask on at the moment because when I was doing this there was quite a lot of smoke. Plastic is easy to cut, but obviously one problem when I am doing this and I am filming myself, sometimes I forget where the camera is, and obviously I move things nearer me to obviously be able to do what I'm doing in a safe way, because I didn't obviously want to cut my fingers. So yeah, so it was kind of just out of shot, but you got to see roughly what I was doing. So yeah, this body thing that I printed out, pretty cool, because it had this little centre bit so you can sort of kind of part assemble, which is, say, very nice. And yeah, so roughly, I say, in my head I always have a rough idea of what I want to do, but then obviously as I'm making something or planning something out, sometimes things change. And so the only thing I really kind of knew was I wanted this guy sitting in a seat, leaning back, holding up a beer to his mouth basically. So yeah, I've printed off quite a few of these little beer whatsits. I don't know what they're called, Steiners. Mine's gone blank, guys. So I'm sure you can leave it in the comments what this is called. Tankard, yeah, that'll do. So yeah, I printed out quite a few of these, and obviously the great thing is that's again nice and easy to cut, and I printed them out to the right scale and size that would fit obviously the hands that I'm using. And then using the old blade, again this stuff is nice and easy to sort of cut, trim, and just sort of sand down basically. So there we go, I've got a rough sort of figure coming on now. So I've also chopped off the feet, again just so I can position that how I want, and I will obviously chop the foot off on the other leg as I do reposition that one as well. And there we go, that's him pretty much glued in sort of position. Yeah, I'm kind of pleased with how he looks. I think his legs may or should have been maybe a little bit longer. For some reason they do look like his upper body is obviously larger than the lower body. So yeah, so the other tankards obviously I'm going to put over the floor just to make it look again like he's been having a good old session, and he is a bit wasted. So I'm going to use the green stuff to fill in all the gaps. And this stuff is easy to use. It is just a case of cutting it using the two colours. Obviously that's why it's called green stuff, because it's blue and yellow, which obviously makes green. This stuff is pretty firm. I've had it for, I don't know, about 8 months, and I'm not sure if that's why it was sort of crazy hard. So it did take quite a lot manipulating for it to sort of fully sort of mix in the two colours, which is obviously then when you know when it's ready to use. It is quite dry, this stuff as well, so you do need to sort of lick your fingers quite a bit and lick any tools that you want to use on it. Otherwise it sort of, as you can see there, it kind of breaks apart rather than sort of smooths out nicely. So at the moment my tool isn't wet, who are madam, but I do wet it just because it does make it a lot easier to smooth this stuff out. And then yeah, just a case of really going around in all the gaps, nooks and crannies and all that other kind of stuff, and basically filling it all in, and manipulating it, moving it around. And then once that was all done, I did actually later on sort of do a bit of sanding. But yeah, this bit was quite nice and easy to do. And yeah, again, pleased with the results from how it came out, except to say I think I should have had his legs a little bit longer. But he kind of looks like me, shorter legs but a normal upper sort of torso. So but yeah, next time I think I will make him have longer legs. But yeah, there you go. So I had actually left him for probably a good 12 hours or so before going around sanding, just because then it was obviously definitely firm and hardened, and yeah, it could be sanded in a normal way like the sort of the plastic is, which is pretty cool. Oops, obviously a leg or foot fell off, but that's fine. That just got glued back on later on, which is no issues. But yeah, so the green stuff and the plastic sort of sand really nicely together. It does help merge sort of the two of them into each other. So yeah, you can't see any gaps, cracks, or any joins afterwards, which is pretty cool. And then onto the fun bit of actually making him look more like Grog. That's by obviously making sort of the outfits and the bits and pieces that he wears. So one of the things he has got on is obviously a nice big shoulder sort of pad, and that's sort of kept on by well, I don't know really, don't know what you call it, strap. Yeah, I guess strap. So yeah, using the green stuff. To be honest, I haven't really used green stuff much before, especially in making stuff. I've used it to fill gaps with, so this is the first time I've really kind of like used it to sort of make parts for a figure. And again, yeah, it's not too bad, but I've used other stuff that I found easier, but this stuff obviously just dries really well and really quick compared to the other stuff that I've used. So I probably will use green stuff more, because obviously I've still got quite a lot of it left. But yeah, it does take a little bit of getting used to. I think more so because of the fact it is kind of dry, and you do need to keep the tools wet, or your fingers wet, just to make it easier to sort of manipulate it and yeah, to sort of move it about. But the other good thing I do like about this is it does obviously act like a kind of a glue, because obviously this bit here I'm not putting any glue underneath, I'm just sort of like putting it on him and then pushing it down and obviously doing a bit of smoothing, but it does obviously, once it does harden, it does adhere to whatever sort of it's on really well. So that is another good bonus about the green stuff, I guess, that it does sort of stick to pieces rather well. So yeah, I had fun making all these little bits and pieces, and yeah, again, I'm pleased how he came out, so that's the main thing. Had fun, pleased with the end result, We can't really ask for much more than that in this hobby when you're making things. So I'm not sure if you guys are into sort of Critical Role or have seen the Legend of the Vox Machina. Even if you're not into the Critical Role, I would suggest watching the cartoon because it is pretty cool, especially if you like cartoons, which I do. And there's quite a few other figures in the series. So guys, if you do go and watch it, let me know down in the comments which figure you want me to make next, because I am looking at making well, basically all of them over sort of the next, well, good few months, as I'll do one of these sort of like every week or maybe every other week. I might make one of these figures. So yeah, let me know in the comments. Go and watch it, and if it is a figure that you want me to make, by all means let me know. Or even if there's a figure from something else. I do like the idea of doing this where I do a bit of 3D printing, but use green stuff or any kind of other sort of materials that I can use to make things look different. Yeah, I want to try and do more of this rather than just sort of 3D printing something and painting it, which, well, in itself is fun. I do enjoy the changing something into something else, and yeah, definitely using sort of green stuff or modelling clay or any of that kind of stuff to make something new is pretty cool. So yeah, let me know if there's any sort of thing you want me to make, guys, as I am looking to sort of diversify the stuff I make, but it still will be pretty much orientated towards sort of fantasy. Yeah, because I do obviously love Dungeons and Dragons type stuff. And there we go, that's him, it's him all complete, and yeah, really pleased with how he looks, say, apart from the short legs, which I can't seem to get over. So yeah, so he's done, obviously the table, chair thingies is ready, all the little tankards are ready, and on to the next bit, which I really love now, and that's the painting. So I'm still using all these Army Painter or D&D range paints, as I just love them. A nice big variety of colours, and they go on really well. I have recently painted something in a gold, and I think that's the only colour that I'd have to say from the Army Painter range that didn't seem to go on very thick. You'll see that in an upcoming video, but I did have to use the gold and paint about 3, maybe 4 layers just to get it to be a nice thick consistency. So I'm not too sure why that is, because obviously the silver, as you can see here, that goes on really well. So I kind of do a bit of a batch paint here, and as I say, the one sort of paint that I'm using, I'll use that to paint on, well, everything. So the tankards have obviously all got a bit of silver. Grog himself's got holding the tankard with silver, and obviously, as you just saw, the silver on the big barrel. This just made things a whole lot easier, just having the one thing, and obviously it saved a lot of cleaning the brush, and obviously there's no risk of the paint drying out then either, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I kind of did this for everything that I was painting. So I then went on to paint the brown, and again did this with all the tankards, the chair and the base. Yeah, and it worked really well. So again, really enjoying the painting, and I think it does it is made better when you have got better paints, better brushes, and certainly when you're painting something that you're really enjoying, makes a big difference as opposed to painting something you're not happy with. So yeah, I am loving the painting. If you are new here, guys, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, as it really will help the channel out so much, and obviously it'll help keep you informed of when my new videos come out, as I try and do them on a regular date, but sometimes that does seem to change. I think I did have a regular date once where it was every Thursday, then that kind of moved to Sundays, and now, well, I'm possibly thinking I might do it every Monday. But yeah, so if you are subscribed with the bell on, you will definitely be informed, because sometimes that date does seem to move around. But hey ho, at least I try and get one out every week though, guys. And there we go, that's the eyes done, and well, him done. And yeah, loving how he looks. So what I want to do now is I'm going to do a wash over him, as obviously I always do washes over things because I just love washes. But I thought it'd be easier to do the washes with everything assembled. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to get him glued in his position, just using a bit of super glue, although the super glue I've got, it's one of those ones where it's a cheaper one because you get lots more, but it's not an instant one, as it's not the sort of like the 2 seconds and everything stuck together. This is more your sort of 10-15 seconds, maybe a bit longer depending on the temperature of the room. And at the moment my room is freezing, because obviously I still have lots of windows open when I'm making things and building things, just because obviously there are the smells of glue and anything else that might be in the air. So yeah, so my room is currently cold, and I think that does make the glue dry slower, but that's fine. So yeah, so I'm going to do obviously the shadow, and again using the army painter sort of shadows. I just lather the whole thing in this. Sometimes I may put too much on, I don't know, but I kind of like the end result, so that's obviously the main thing. You do sort of stuff for yourself. Although what I generally do is, as you can see, I put loads on, and this will basically go on everywhere. And then once I have covered the whole figure in the wash, then I do go over and sort of dab it with a cloth, just to remove some, especially obviously on the higher areas where there possibly wouldn't be as much obviously as a shadow. So yeah, I do sort of remove bits off here and there, basically, especially over his face. I did sort of his face kind of got covered quite a bit, and the top of his head, which possibly wouldn't have shadows on it when it is sort of silky smooth, a bit like my head really, but obviously I haven't quite got the tattoos or the muscles that this guy has, but hey ho. So the last thing I did want to do, and that was I wanted to make it look like there was actually sort of ale or some sort of liquid in these tankards, and to do that I'm going to use the UV resin. Probably the first time I'm actually using this to make it look like liquid. I normally use this for glue, and yeah, just a case of putting some resin inside one of these, or all the tankards, and obviously leaning it forward just so it does sort of look like it's dribbled out, basically. And then yeah, the good old UV light obviously dries this in, well, seconds, which is great stuff. Which is why I say I normally use it as kind of a glue. But also I also wanted it to come out of the tankard and be sort of splashing over his face. So this was a case of getting it in there and then getting it ready to sort of drip over his face, which obviously it does. Obviously it come out of a thin line. So what I do now is I go over it quite a few times just to try and make it look a bit thicker. I mean, it's certainly sort of splodged on his face, rather nice. And yeah, again, pleased about this is coming out because I've never really used UV resin to make it look like it's obviously like a liquid. So this is the first, even though I've had this resin for about a year, maybe more. But yeah, so I just love the fact of how quick this stuff almost like freezes when you get the UV light on it. So it's pretty cool for obviously this effect that I wanted. But obviously one thing here was it did look rather clear, which obviously I'm sure grog obviously wouldn't taste or wouldn't look clear. So using the good old speed paints, and again these are from Army Painter. Yeah, just dabbing over it, because obviously the great thing here is, because these are speed paints, they are very translucent themselves. So you can obviously still see it looks like a clear liquid, which I'm really pleased with. So I've only used these speed paints a little bit on a few figures. Really loved how you can use them, because obviously they live up to their name and they are fast and quick and easy to use. But yeah, love the fact obviously putting this over the UV resin obviously colours it, but still makes it look clear, which is pretty cool. So yeah, and that's him just about done. Now onto the glamour shots. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I just want to say a quick shout out and thank you to all my patrons, as well as the sponsors, for helping making it possible for me to sort of keep making these videos and obviously buying the materials I need to build stuff. So yeah guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Leave comments down below, hit the like button, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, take care, bye for now.